Hi everyone. So today I am going to start my group's presentation about menstrual cycle, which is about the role of hormones. So first things first, what is menstrual cycle? There are two important terms that we should know in this topic, which is ovulation and menstrual cycle. Ovulation means the release of secondary oocyte from ovary to fallopian tube, while menstrual cycle means the monthly cycle of female ovulation. This process involves the production of secondary oocyte and thickens the endometrium wall in one cycle. So the endometrium will become soft, thick, and rich with blood vessels. If fertilization does not take place, secondary oocyte will die and the endometrium wall will shed, so bleeding will occur. So this is menstrual cycle. Now let us refresh our memory about the female reproductive system. As we can see in the picture here, the endometrium wall is the lining of the uterus. So it's over here and here and here. Now I will go. Next one is to the function of hormones. So in the pituitary gland, there are two hormones that are related to this topic, which is follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. Follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, the function is to stimulate the follicle growth and release of estrogen, while luteinizing hormone stimulates ovulation, causes the formation of corpus luteum, and stimulates the progesterone release. Next is the diagram about the pituitary gland. As we can see in the picture here, we know where the pituitary gland is located. Next is the ovary gland. So as we know, ovary secretes estrogen and progesterone. So what is the function of estrogen? Estrogen will repair and stimulate the endometrium thickening, stimulate the follicle growth, and stimulate follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone release before ovulation. And progesterone, there are some functions too, which are to stimulate the thickening of endometrium for embryo implantation and stops the follicle stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone release to prevent the follicle growth and ovulation. Okay, so that's it from me. The next presenter will present this topic even deeply.
Well, hello everybody. Today, our group will be presenting about Biology Chapter 15.3 Menstrual Cycle. So, without further ado, let's jump in. Okay, menstrual cycle refers to the cycle of change that involves the production of secondary oocyte and the thickening of endometrial wall. There are four main hormones that are present in woman menstrual cycle, which is follicle stimulating hormone FSH, luteinizing hormone LH, estrogen, and progesterone. There are two phases that occur, which is typical menstruation cycle is 28 days long. Each phase is 14 days long. The first phase is called follicular phase, and the second phase is called luteal phase. The length of the cycle, especially luteal phase, always remains 14 days long. But if your cycle tends to have long or shorter than 28 days, it may be the length of the follicular phase. So now I will explain about the stages of events and hormonal changes in one menstrual cycle. On day 0 until 5, The cycle begins when the hypothalamus, this is the hypothalamus, release GnRH, which is the gonadotrophin releasing hormone. The GnRH stimulates the secretion of FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and LH, luteinizing hormone. The FSH stimulates the growth and the development of follicles in ovary to be mature. FSH stimulates the follicle to grow in the ovary. Within the primary follicle, this is the primary follicle, the oocyte grows into the secondary oocyte within the Graafian follicles. This is the Graafian follicles. Next, also on day 0 until 5, growing follicles will encourage the release of estrogen hormone, meaning that while the follicles grow the estrogen hormone, it will react by releasing estrogen hormone. The estrogen then encourage the follicle maturation and also encourage the endometrial wall repair. These will be explained more in the corpus luteum stage. Back to the main topic, on day 6 until 14, estrogen level on day 12 rises, causing it to inhibit the secretion of FSH, meaning by that high level of estrogen will encourage the pituitary gland to secrete more luteinizing hormone and stop the secretion of FSH. So the estrogen level is at the peak, it will inhibit the secretion of FSH. The high level of estrogen also encourage the pituitary gland to release more LH so that it will stop the follicle stimulating hormone secretion. Level of luteinizing hormone rises until day 13, causing the most mature egg in the ovary or secondary oocyte to burst from the Graafian follicle here and through the ovary wall. Meaning by that, the luteinizing hormone will but will cause the most mature egg, this one, or the secondary oocyte to burst here, to release from the Graafian follicle and through the ovary wall. High level of luteinizing hormone also leading to ovulation. On day 6 until 14 also, the remains of the Graafian follicle, the secondary oocyte already released from the Graafian follicle and through the ovary wall, right? But so the Graafian follicle will then have nothing inside it. So the Graafian follicle in the ovary will develop to form corpus luteum. Here, the reaction will occur, the releasing in progesterone hormone. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, so now I will continue with the day 15 until the day 28. You can refer to these graphs on your textbook page 294 and 295. Okay, let's study. So, between the day 15 and the 21st in the menstrual cycle, the corpus luteum that is formed in the ovary will secrete progesterone and estrogen. As you can see in this diagram, corpus luteum is formed after ovulation, which is when the follicle is empty. It will become corpus luteum. And this corpus luteum will secrete two hormones, which are the progesterone and estrogen. Please remember this because we are going to discuss about this corpus luteum later. Okay, so next, the combination of estrogen and progesterone will inhibit the release of FSH and LH from the hypothalamus via the negative feedback mechanism. So this negative feedback mechanism functions to stop the growth of new follicles, because once estrogen and progesterone stops the release of the FSH and LH, which Can FSH and LH functions to stimulate the development of new follicle. So if estrogen and progesterone stops this production of FSH and LH, there will be no new follicle. Okay. So then progesterone will stimulate the endometrial wall thickening, enriching it with blood vessels. So also you can relate the enrich with blood vessels with enrich with nutrient supply, because blood vessels carries nutrients to our body juga kan. So for what this wall thickening and the nutrient supply? It is to prepare for embryo implantation. So let's continue. On the day between 22nd and the last day of a menstrual cycle, if fertilization does not occur, the decreasing LH levels will cause corpus luteum to degenerate. So this will stop the production or the secretion of estrogen and progesterone, because remember in the beginning, corpus luteum secretes estrogen and progesterone. So let's continue. The endometrium will shed and menstruation will begin. Begin with the day 1, 2, 3 again lah. Terus, low level of progesterone and estrogen will no longer inhibit the hypothalamus and pituitary gland, because okay, we can see this graph again. During the end of the 27th and the 28th day, you can see that the progesterone and estrogen has really hit rock bottom. So this will no longer stop the secretion of hormones at hypothalamus and pituitary gland. This will make way for GnRH to be secreted again. So GnRH will secrete the hormone FSH and LH kan. So this remember kan, FSH and LH dia punya function to stimulate the development of new follicle. So we can conclude that the new menstrual cycle will begin with a new follicle. Okay. I'm sorry if I'm going too fast. Okay, I will continue. If fertilization occurs, the corpus luteum will continue to grow and secrete progesterone and estrogen. So this will cause the endometrial wall to thicken in order to support fetal growth. As we can see, growth. This is the example of the fetal growth lah, during the first month until it becomes a human baby. And that's it for this menstrual cycle.
So for my part, I will explain to you role of hormones in pregnancy and miscarriage. First and foremost, there are 5 types of hormones in pregnancy and miscarriage. Firstly, there are HCG hormones, which is human chorionic gonadotrophin hormones. Secondly, there are progesterone, 3 estrogen, 5 4 relaxin, and 5 miscarriage. For HCG hormones, HCG maintains the corpus luteum and embryo during the early stage of pregnancy. Corpus luteum releases progesterone and estrogen hormones, which maintain the endometrium for embryonic development and to prevent menstruation from happening. Okay, in progesterone causes the thickening of uterine wall and formation of blood vessels to support the developing of embryo. Other than that, progesterone prevents from muscle contraction in uterine, so that the uterus will continue growing with the growing of fetus. Lastly, progesterone prevents from releasing prolactin hormones, which cause the milk production. For estrogen, estrogen helps in growth of uterine, maintains uterine wall, and aids in the development of vital organs. Other than that, estrogen along with progesterone will cause the growth of mammary glands. Lastly, estrogen helps to prevent ovulation from happening. Okay, so for relaxin is also released by corpus luteum. Relaxin is used to prevent uterine from contraction to avoid premature labor. It's also used to relax muscle, bones, and pelvic ligament. Okay, so lastly is miscarriage. Miscarriage is a spontaneous failure of fetus to stay alive. Miscarriage can occur when the level of HCG hormones or progesterone hormone is decreased, and if the progesterone hormones is at a low level, the risk of miscarriage is increased. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Hi and Assalamualaikum everyone. So now I will explain about premenstrual syndrome and menopausal syndrome. Okay, so for premenstrual syndrome, it is also known as PMS. Okay, so I think PMS is a very common word among our society because we usually hear the word PMS when watching melodrama on social media. So it basically you hear the word PMS when I give an example. When a boy notice a girl suddenly wanna cry without any reason. Okay, so it might be the girl is having her PMS symptoms. Okay, so PMS is a combination of physical and emotional symptoms that many women get after ovulation and before the start of their menstrual period. So physical and emotional symptoms, it's like maybe like I said just now, maybe you suddenly wanna cry without any reason. Okay, so that might be the symptoms that you experience for your PMS. Okay, PMS symptoms usually will go away within a few days after a woman's period start, as hormones level will begin to rise again. Okay, so you don't have to be worried. The PMS symptoms will go away. Okay, it will not last for forever. Okay. Okay, so let's move on into the details. Okay, premenstrual syndrome. The symptoms that appear prior to a menstrual cycle usually manifest between 7 to 14 days before the first day of the menstrual cycle. It occurs due to the imbalance of estrogen and progesterone hormones within the menstrual cycle. These are the symptoms such as headache, emotionally unstable, bad temper, fatigue. Maybe if you're experiencing emotionally unstable, like I said just now, you suddenly want to cry without any reason. You suddenly getting mad without any reason. That might be the symptoms of your premenstrual syndrome. Okay, so I think some of you might be wondering on how to identify if it is PMS or not. Okay, sadly, there is not single test for PMS, so you will not know if the PMS or not. But usually, when you track your period, right? So it usually occurs in the 5 days before your period for at least 3 menstrual cycles in a row, and it ends within 4 days after your period start. Okay, so when you notice you are emotionally unstable 5 days before your period and 4 days after your period start, you okay. You suddenly okay. You're not emotionally unstable already. So
Yeah, it might be that's your symptoms for premenstrual syndrome. Okay, so PMS, it will only stop after menopause. Okay, so I think you might also be wondering what is menopause. Okay, menopause is the topic that we will learn after this. Okay, menopausal syndrome. Menopausal. It comes from the word menopause. Okay, menopause is a natural biological process. It is a time that marks the end of your menstrual cycle. It's diagnosed after you've gone 12 months without a menstrual period. So basically, if you're not getting your period for about like 12 months or longer than that, maybe you are getting it's menopausal syndrome. Okay, so let's move on into the details. So basically, menopausal syndrome, it occurs within the age of 46 to 50 years old when ovulation and menstruation stop naturally. Okay, but in certain case, or it's like a rare case lah, if you experiencing your menopausal syndrome uh, early, okay, earlier than 46 to 50 years old. It's a rare case. It's a very rare case. Example, like if you're experiencing your menopausal symptoms or you're not getting your period for too long, like 2 years, you're not getting your period for about like 2 years, then and you are 20 years old, maybe you need to see the doctor. You need to go to the clinic and ask for medical checkup. Okay, so the increase in age leads to reduced secretion of progesterone and estrogen hormone. Okay, so the older you get, the lower the secretion of progesterone and estrogen hormone. Okay, so this reduced secretion of progesterone and estrogen hormone, it reduces the stimulation of FSH hormone and LH hormone on the ovaries. So if you forgot or if you forget what is FSH hormone and LH hormone, you can go to biology textbook page 254. Okay, you can check the details about both of these hormones. What are the function, what are the targets, organs, the target tissues. Okay, so at this stage, the ovaries will stop producing ovum. So automatically after menopause, a woman is not able to conceive a child anymore because the production of ovum has stopped. Okay, so these are the symptoms such as osteoporosis, interrupted sleep, irritable, bad temper, low mood, hot flush. Okay, so basically menopausal syndrome is the syndrome that you get when you no longer get a period. Okay, so just that from me. Thank you very much for lending me your ear and paying attention on our lesson today. Thank you.